Good morning. Morning, Lucas.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Jacob, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Good morning, Ava. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing
Hi.
okay.
That's good. Hi, Allie.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Day outside.
Yes, it is.
Nice week to week and a half until the AP tests are wrapped up too, so that's nice.
Oh, I know. I'm just a little bit confused on how we're taking the culture exam
Yeah.
because I think we need to like download an app, but it doesn't work on our Chromebook, so I think I'm gonna have to take the AP test on my phone.
And that's for which class?
AP culture, because AP culture and language, because
Oh,
you have to. They made a specific app for the test, and it only is on Apple and um Google Play, and our Chromebooks are Chrome, so you
are you
can't get it
serious?
on there. So
That's crazy.
yeah, and we already have softball games scheduled for June 2nd, and we
Are
have
you,
uniform pickup May 18th.
and is that for this? That must be for City Ball, right?
Yeah, it's club ball.
Okay. I'm surprised that they're going ahead with that.
I know, me too. I woke up and I was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah, because we had uniform pickup, but our league has no idea about how they'd run that out, especially trying to maintain some sort of social distancing between players.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm going to get you started, especially for my AP Bio people. If you are unaware, right now, over on the AP Bio YouTube site for the College Board, they're doing a timed essay write where they're walking you through the process of how to do your writing and getting you kind of in the groove for that process. So if you want to jump over there, I'm recording currently. So if you want to try that out, you absolutely can. Our assignment that we're going to be working on for tomorrow is from your text assignments. And what we're looking at is we're looking at chapter 27, lesson 2. And in particular, the thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the battle that's going on during the 1960s, because the 60s is a turning point. And let me get you to my presentation mode right here. 1960s is a turning point. It's a period where we kind of shift our focus, and we kind of enter into a period that becomes known as the culture wars in United States history. And in particular, we have conservatives and liberals who are battling against each other because of images like the one that you see right here. You guys were reading for today, The Rise of the Counterculture. In this political cartoon, is getting into the issues that you see during the 1960s, where you have kids in the baby boom generation who start becoming rebellious against the Vietnam War, against civil rights violations, against issues that they see limiting the power of the youth. And for this generation that you see right here, many of the people who are in the older generation remember sacrificing during the Great Depression, during World War II, during the Korean conflict, working through the 1950s. And their mind is kind of blown by the idea that you've got a generation that has got the possibility of being able to protest because they're being sent to school based on the wealth that this person accumulated using the GI Bill and working through the 1950s. And now their reward is having hippie kids who are out there protesting about injustices that they see, even though they're living in a time of prosperity, unlike anything that has been seen before inside the United States. The thing that you'll notice, though, is that this part of the political cartoon is referencing white kids who are growing up in a society that very much has had advantages built in for them, ignoring what's been going on with other ethnic groups, or else for women during this time period, the issues they've been facing, or ignoring the fact that there is a legit concern about what's going on with the Vietnam War. When we take a look then at chapter 27, lesson 2, we get to take a look at what's going on with women. And for women during this time period, I'd like you to remember as you read this chapter, what happened during the World War II era. You saw the rise of Rosie the Riveter. And with Rosie the Riveter, you saw that women were able to work in the 1940s. They were encouraged to go back home during the 1950s to become housewives and mothers. But for many women, they're finding that that's something that's being forced upon them rather than that being a choice that they actually legitimately are making on their own. So in chapter 27, lesson 2, you're going to be finding questions about what's going on with like women in the workplace, what should the rules be as far as like whether or not women should be able to pursue any sort of employment opportunities they want to pursue, and whether or not they should be going off to college, and if so, what they should be pursuing. My mom has told me repeatedly about what she experienced when she went into high school and college, where she was told by her counselors that there were certain jobs that were women's jobs. And that's how she ended up becoming a math teacher, even though she really had no interest in being a math teacher. What we'll see then throughout the 1970s and beyond is also a gap that we'll see in pay between men and women. Although if you talk to conservatives and liberals, they'll have very different interpretations as far as why this gap exists. And that's what we'll be able to take a look at tomorrow when we get back together and take a look at what's going on with the women's rights movement, where women are going to be pursuing during this time period an equal rights amendment, arguing that there should be something in the Constitution that specifically says that when men and women cannot face discrimination based on gender, which was supposed to be satisfied during the Civil Rights Act. You will find, though, that during this time period, we will also have a battle going on where you're going to have conservative women arguing against the creation of an equal rights amendment. And the argument that they're going to make is that there are certain protections that women have that might go out the window as a result of the creation of an equal rights amendment. And so Phyllis Schlafly, that you see right here, starts making arguments that if we have an equal rights amendment, women will get drafted in the military. We won't have men and women's bathrooms. There'll be a loss of protections for women in the cases of divorces. But for many women during the time, they're going to argue that those sorts of arguments are kind of the extreme slippery slope, where women will point out during this time period of the 1960s, women were still facing discrimination. They were still facing a glass ceiling in jobs where they wouldn't be offered jobs. If they were a woman inside businesses, they'd hit a certain level and then they wouldn't be able to move further because nobody would hire them. There was still discrimination and abuse taking place. And in particular in the 1960s, it's weird because what was sexual harassment or rape nowadays was treated very differently back then. And oftentimes, if there was sexual harassment or rape, there would be an assumption that men would have that women had brought that upon themselves, and the burden to prove that some sort of abuse had taken place would fall onto women to prove that there was an abuse, rather than assuming that they might be telling the truth when it comes to abuses that were taking place. In particular, then, what we want to be noticing when you're looking at your text questions is this is the time period where we're going to have a conservative court made up of very much people who are leaning more in Richard Nixon's direction. You're going to have the decision made in Roe versus Wade to make abortion legal with certain limitations inside the United States. And the argument that is made is that this is a private matter between women and their doctors and their religion and their families, and that the government shouldn't be involved in this because it is complicated. It's got issues coming up with what if a woman has been raped or abused? What if the woman has a baby that is developing inside of her that has birth defects? What if somebody is not wealthy enough to be able to get an abortion on their own? Which is something that's happening during this time period. Before 1973, abortions are taking place. It just depends on whether or not you're wealthy or poor as far as how safe and how secret that procedure is that is happening. Now, what you'll find is during this time period, a lot of decisions are made then about women in the workplace, women's role inside the family, abortion becoming illegal. And if you notice nowadays, those are all controversial issues that still are not resolved. So like we talked about yesterday with the counterculture movement, with the question of abortion, you're going to be finding we still debate that nowadays. With the role of women inside the workplace, we're still debating what should that balance be between work and family inside of our society. And that debate is something that still causes quite a bit of tension 50 years later. And so we're going to find that that is something that is still burning inside of our politics as we work nowadays. So what I'd like you to have done for tomorrow, I'd like you to take a look at what's going on with women in their counterculture movement, trying to pursue change. And what you'll find is that inside of our society, when changes are put forward, oftentimes attempting to change the society can create a counter revolution of people who are feeling under threat and under attack. And they'll sometimes respond by becoming more conservative and trying to hold on to the old ways of doing things. And I think this is going to help you to understand quite a bit of where our politics are nowadays. So please have that read for tomorrow. Have your text questions taken care of. At this point, I'm going to then shut down the video for today. If you are somebody who has questions or problems, feel free to let me know. But especially my AP Bio people, make sure you bounce over to that AP College Board session that they've got running for you right now, doing a timed right. And practice that out because you want to rehearse those quite a bit before you take your AP test next week. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but otherwise, have a good rest